Welcome to Tech Talk Live, a resource produced by Vision Forward. Low vision and blindness technology, tips, tricks, and information presented in a way that makes sense. And now, here are your hosts, Cory and Luke.
Hello, and welcome everybody back to Tech Talk Live. My name is Luke, and I am joined here today by...
Oh, that's me. Hi, I'm Cory Ballard.
I am joined by Cory Ballard. Now, we are in different and separate locations today. I am coming out to you live from my house. And Cory, where are you today? It looks like a very interesting place.
I know. I wish this was my house. I think from what I'm told, it looks like I'm actually pretty much sitting in this very futuristic home, but I'm not. I'm at Vision Forward. It is the power of the green screen.
Indeed it is, yes, but it does look like a very nice house that we found for you to be in there today. And I hope everybody else is in a very nice location for today's Tech Talk. It is January the 20th, believe it or not. Time is flying, as it always does. And for those day of the week fans out there, it is a Thursday. So,
which is really the best day if you think about it.
I mean, it's a great day. It's just before Friday. Friday is the start of the weekend. Some people say that Thursday is the official start of the weekend. So
that is true.
Yes, indeed.
It was in college. Thursday night was the night.
I thought actually in college every night was the night.
Well, that is very true. That is very true.
Well, I hope everybody is having a lovely Thursday anyway and looking forward to the weekend. And today we have a very exciting show because it's the first part of our two-part series, which is going to be all about smart homes. Now, luckily for us, Cory himself is a big smart home proponent, and he has kitted his house out with all sorts of exciting gadgets, which we're going to be taking a look at today in the first part. But next time, in 2 weeks' time, we're actually going to be going live to Cory's house. This will be our first Tech Talk Live on location.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so we're quite excited about that, and we'll actually be taking a look at some of the stuff that we're talking about today in action in Cory's house. So definitely make sure, if you enjoy today's episode, to tune in 2 weeks' time when we follow up with that. But anyway, with that being said, Cory, how are you doing today? You're having a nice time there at Vision Forward?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Got a little bit of a stuffy nose, but not too bad. Just a stuffy nose, so not too bad. Yeah.
No, and it is the season for colds, unfortunately.
That's true.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to today's show, but before we jump in and get started with that, we should probably see if we have any jokes today.
Yeah, I want to. While you're pulling that up, I just want to remind everyone: please use the chat. Any of your questions or jokes, throw them in there. Luke will be monitoring the chat, so throughout our session we can answer those questions. And I also wanted to thank all of those who re-registered for Tech Talk Live. I don't know what, something goofy happened on the Zoom side of things, and we realized it last week or so ago, and we appreciate those who jumped back in and re-registered to join us today. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. And as Cory says, feel free to put anything in the chat. We do appreciate jokes, of course, and also any comments as we go along about the things that we're going to be talking about. And don't worry, this show is platform agnostic, so we will be covering various different smart home platforms. So if you are an Android user or an Apple user, or if you're inclined toward the Amazon side of things, I think Cory will be covering all of those. I hope he is now, otherwise I've just promised something that we can't deliver.
Right, let's go back to the drawing board here.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, so we should be covering many different things there. All right, but with that being said, let's see what our joke of the week is now.
Yeah, do we have one?
Yeah, and sadly nobody has put a joke in the chat yet.
Oh, come on, we didn't prepare.
No, we did. I do have a joke. I do have a joke, luckily.
I knew I could rely on you.
I know. Well, I've always got one close at hand, you know. You've got to entertain the people. My joke for today, and honestly, people may have heard this one before, but the joke for today is, what sits at the bottom of the sea and twitches?
All right. So we did get a joke in the chat because it was read out to me. But anyways, can you repeat yours because it both came through?
Yeah. So my joke was, what sits at the bottom of the sea and twitches? If anybody knows the answer, feel free to put it in the chat.
Twitches.
What sits at the bottom of the sea and twitches? Could be a mermaid with epilepsy, maybe.
Twitches. I don't know. I don't have something.
The answer is a nervous wreck.
Oh, there you go.
We get it. Do we get a sound effect?
Oh yeah, hold on. I forgot. I got so much stuff. This one is this button. I know for sure.
I feel like that was unwarranted, but never mind. We do have some jokes in the chat here. Thank you.
I saw a couple come through.
Indeed, we have one from somebody who I believe is called Doyle. I think that's what I can see.
That's D. Yep.
Okay, excellent. So the joke is, if you get cold this weekend, go stand in a corner. Why? Because it's 90 degrees there.
Math humor for you today.
That's a good joke. Yeah, although I would want to get my square out just to confirm that is correct. Kenneth here. Why shouldn't you write with a broken pencil?
I don't know why.
Because it's pointless.
Nice.
Hey.
We got one other one coming. What?
I'm missing the sound effects here, though, Cory.
Oh yeah, jeez. You know what? Okay, here we go.
Hey,
you gotta remind me. Here we go. All right.
All right. We have one more.
Let's do one more here.
Okay, which I actually think that we might have done this one ourselves on the show before. So
yeah,
for long-time listeners, you may know the answer to this one already. But Abby says, "Why couldn't the pony sing?" Because she was a little horse. Wow.
Making up for all the other ones I missed.
That's a historic first triple cheer. Yeah. So, impressive.
Triple hi-hat for you.
I know, yeah. All right, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for the jokes. We enjoyed them thoroughly, as usual. So, smart homes, then. Well,
yeah.
Smart homes. Now, I hear it told, Cory, that a smart home is only as smart as the person controlling it. What have you to say about this?
That is absolutely correct. Just like a computer is only as smart as the person who programmed it.
Now, with that being said, Cory, do you have a smart home?
No, I have a home that is slightly smart. Most of the time, it's a lot of the times it does the right thing.
Okay, well, that sounds
but it also
fair.
makes bad decisions sometimes.
Excellent. Yes, smart homes. We're going to be talking about smart homes today. Now, this is quite an interesting topic in general because obviously smart technology is a big thing. And smartphones and smart tablets and things like that are very common these days. But how about a smart home? Now, I'm sure many people are aware of the science fiction movie about the smart home that comes alive and
sure.
Isn't very nice. But we haven't got to that point yet. At the moment, smart homes are for the most part doing what you tell them to do, and they can be very useful. I mean, if you think about appliances these days. There can be issues when it comes to people with visual impairments because a lot of appliances are going down the kind of touchscreen route, including the oven that Cory bought recently, and that can make them somewhat difficult to operate. And so, if you've got a smart home, then at that point you can either operate it via an app or via voice control, and hopefully that will give you a bit more access to some of these more modern appliances. So there's a lot of potential there for people with vision impairment, but also obviously in terms of other disabilities as well. I mean, if you have some form of physical impairment, the ability to control things using your voice might be very useful indeed. Yeah. And so there's a lot of potential benefits to smart homes, but you also need to consider a lot of different things, including, of course, what it is that you want to be able to control, the platform that you want to use to, control those things, and then actually purchasing the necessary bits and pieces that will make all of that stuff accessible. So luckily for us, we do have an expert, because Cory is, as we said before, a big smart home advocate, and he has kitted his house out. In fact, this is not the only house that he's kitted out. His previous house also was kitted out in a bunch of different smart home features. And so, Cory, why don't you tell us a bit about what you've got with you and how it works and what it does?
Yeah. So, when it came to, for me, when I started looking at smart home technology, for me, it was really two things that I wanted to solve with a smart home. First was accessibility. I wanted to make it easier for me to access things around my house. If it was, as Luke mentioned, an appliance or a thermostat or whatever it might be, I wanted to increase my access or accessibility to my home. The second thing I wanted was convenience, and that's really kind of the big thing for mainstream smart home is convenience. How can a smart home, how can it be more convenient for you? And we'll talk about some of the different smart home devices that are out there and how they can make your life both more accessible and more convenient. So the way I kind of want to look at today is I want to talk about sort of, if you were going to start this journey today, what steps should you follow? What do you need to know? What are some of the do's and don'ts? So really the first step in determining how you want to proceed with your smart home is sort of picking a platform to control your smart home. Now, when smart home devices first came out, and even now, most of them have a specific app for your smartphone, either iPhone or an Android phone, that you set up the device with, and then you can control that device from a smartphone. And in a lot of ways, that's convenient and it's needed, again, for the setup process. But when I talk about what platform do you want to go with, I'm not really speaking about iPhone versus Android. What I'm really talking about is what smart home platform do you want to move forward with. Rather than using a smartphone to control your devices, it's much more accessible and much more convenient to use a voice-powered assistant to do all of your smart home control. And so really we have three options we're looking at. And you may be familiar with all three, but first you want to decide, do I want to go with the Amazon Echo? Do I want to move forward using the Google Home? Or do I want to use Apple's HomeKit smart home using Siri, either through your phone or through using the HomePod minis? So first and foremost, you kind of want to pick which platform do you want to go with. Now, some of those options may already be chosen for you because you may already have a number of Amazon Echoes in your home. You might have a bunch of Google Homes already, or you might have a home, an iPhone and a HomePod mini already. And if you do, then your question is answered for you. Go with what you already have. All three platforms have positives and negatives. All three will work just fine for what you're doing. So it's not like you need to get rid of what you have, excuse me, and start over. But in my opinion, I've tried all three. In my opinion, I have chosen the Amazon Echo as my smart home platform for a couple of reasons. First, I already had a bunch of Amazon Echoes in the house. Number two, it was more accessible working with the Amazon Echo app, in my opinion. Number three, I really liked the routines and automations that Amazon Echo platform provided. And number four, all the different skills, and almost every smart home device works with Amazon Echo. Typically, if a piece of smart home technology is released, usually the Amazon Echo is the first platform it's going to work with. The Google Home probably comes up on a close second with the devices that it supports, the automations that it provides. And HomeKit, although HomeKit is very good, there is not as many devices that are Apple HomeKit certified that work with Siri and HomeKit. And really the big reason for that is that HomeKit is definitely more secure than Amazon Echo and Google Home. Not that the Amazon Echo and Google Home option is that you're vulnerable and you're going to be hacked and this and that, but if you're really security minded and security and privacy is really important to you, then looking at the Apple HomeKit using Siri might be the best option for you. Just be aware though that you have less devices that you can choose from. So now that we've kind of talked about the different platforms, again, I've chosen the Amazon Echo. And again, it doesn't matter as much of which one of the three you pick, but just be aware that those three options are out there.
I have a question about the Amazon side of things.
Yeah.
So obviously, the Amazon have the Echoes, which are their kind of smart speakers that you're able to talk to, and they have a number of different models of those, and I think they start around $29 or something crazy like that. So those are pretty,
you can get for pretty cheap when they're on sale.
Yeah. So those are pretty cheap to kit your house out with. But if you're outside of your house and you want to change the thermostat or whatever it might be, then I assume then that you can use the app instead on your smartphone in order to control those things without actually having to kind of be in range of a smart speaker.
Yeah, so a couple things. First, yes, again, each device is going to most likely have its own app that you could go in and control it with. And the accessibility on these apps vary. Some are pretty accessible, some are barely accessible whatsoever. But the other thing to remember is that your phone has the Amazon Alexa app. I'm going to try not to use that word as much as I can for those that have them in their homes, but you do have the Amazon A app on your phone that also has the Amazon A included in it. So you can tap that A button and speak right to your phone and give the same command as if you are at home to control it. So for example, if I wanted to lower my thermostat right now, I could grab my phone and either open my Ecobee app, because that's the type of brand thermostat I have, and lower it, or I could open up the Amazon A app, tap the little A button and say, turn down thermostat 3 degrees, and it would say, it would do it just as if I was talking to an actual Echo in the house.
Very cool. And I assume that Alexa app is pretty accessible to screen reader users. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, quite accessible. I think out of all, the Google Home app is also quite accessible, but I've had little to no issues with the Amazon A app.
Excellent. Now, we do have a question in the chat here, which is from Joe Lisa, asking how this type of technology can be used in an apartment. And I think as we go through, then you'll start to kind of understand the different types of things that you're able to do with it. So if you just stay tuned, then Cory will be going through all of those things.
You got it. All right. So we've talked about making sure you choose kind of which platform you want to use. And again, remember, you don't have to choose one of these three, because you can use the app that's on your phone. But I do recommend choosing one of those three voice-powered assistant options, and then kind of basing your smart home off of which device you've chosen. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about what are some of the smart home devices that are available, and what can we expect from them. And I have some of the different types here that I will show. And before we put some of these different ones on camera, I want to talk about at least one that I don't have here. And I mentioned it earlier, and that's a thermostat. So for me, one of the greatest smart home devices has been a smart thermostat. This is just a thermostat that replaces the thermostat in your home. It connects to your Wi-Fi network, and then gives you the ability to control it again, either through an app or through a voice-powered assistant. And now this device that typically is quite inaccessible for individuals unless you have one of the older talking thermostats. But now we're able to make this this device that has been inaccessible very accessible. Some of the things that I can do with my thermostat, now I've chosen the Ecobee 4 thermostat. There's a number of them out there, the Ecobee, Nest. Amazon has some pretty cheap ones that they just released their own. I think for $79 you can get a smart thermostat. Honeywell has a few models that work well as too. But what are some of the things I can do with this thermostat now is I can ask what the current temperature in the home is. I can find out what the temperature is set to. I can change the temperature, so I can either raise it or lower it to a specific temperature. Some of the other things I can do with it is using the Amazon A app, I can create schedules for that thermostat. So at specific times of the day, my thermostat goes to a specific temperature. Now, a lot of the apps support that as well, but what I have found is a lot of times those apps are not very accessible, especially when it comes to the scheduling piece of it. And so I use the Amazon A to do all of my scheduling for the thermostat. So now I'm able to accessibly schedule what temperature I want the home at what time.
And of course, if you have a partner who is working from home and you're going into work, you can mess with them by adjusting the temperature without them realizing that you're doing it.
And a lot of the thermostats, like the Ecobee, I also have two sensors in my home. I have one in my family room and one in my master bedroom. And what those do is they also tell me the temperature of those specific rooms, but then the thermostat will also look at those sensors and help regulate your heat in your house. So for example, at night, I tell the thermostat to change its temperature down to 67 degrees. But what it'll do though is it won't change, it won't use the thermostat's thermometer. Instead, I've told it to use the sensor in my master bedroom because I have a 2-story home. And so it'll look at that room and it'll change the temperature until that sensor is the right temperature. So another example would be in the summertime, being a 2-story house, it takes more to cool my master bedroom down. So for example, if I set the temperature at night to 68, what ends up happening is that the thermostat on the first floor, it'll actually cool the first floor down to almost 64, 65 degrees so that the master bedroom is 68. So it gives you a little bit more control.
We have a question in the chat here with regards to whether the sensors that you're referring to are parts of, are they specific to a brand of thermostat, or are they kind of universal?
No, they'll typically be specific to the brand you buy. So if you buy the Ecobee thermostat, then there'll be Ecobee sensors. If you buy the Nest thermostat, Nest has their own kind of sensors you can put around the home. So if that's something you're interested in when you buy your thermostat, you want to double check that sensors are available.
Yeah, Cory, am I right in saying that you installed these things yourself? Is that correct?
Sensors I do because there's nothing, all you do is you just put them in the room. There's nothing there. The thermostat, I did do myself with some sighted help, although I would recommend having, any handy person. You do not need a heating and cooling HVAC person come in. Okay. Doing a thermostat is actually quite easy. It's basically as simple as just looking at the color wires and matching it on the new thermostat. So anyone handy can do it. It seems more complicated than it really is.
And Douglas also asked whether these sensors that you're referring to, do they connect to the thermostat via Bluetooth, or what's the communication method?
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yep. So you can put them anywhere throughout your house. Yeah. So I have, like I said, I have one way upstairs on the other side of the house. So yeah, Bluetooth would not work, but they do connect via Wi-Fi. So excellent. All right, so that's the thermostat, and I just wanted to mention that because I don't have one here. But now we're going to move on to the next type of smart home technology that a lot of people do, and that's lighting. And you might say, well, that's kind of interesting. Cory, you don't have a whole lot of vision. Is lighting, why are you interested in doing any smart home with lighting? Well, First, I do have enough vision to see some light, but I also live with 3 other sighted people in the home who never turn off the lights. And so I have done a lot of work with lighting in the home so that we're at a point now where you pretty much don't even have to turn lights on or off. They'll do things automatically for you.
Awesome.
Now, when we look at lighting, there are really 2 different ways that you can incorporate smart lighting into your house. The first method is by utilizing a smart light bulb. Now, what a smart light bulb is it looks very similar to just a traditional light bulb. So you would buy a smart light bulb, you would go in your home to a lamp or to an overhead light, unscrew the current light bulb that's in there, screw in the new light bulb, and go through the setup process to connect it to your Wi-Fi. Once it's connected, then you have the ability to control that lighting, again, either through the app or through the voice-powered assistant like the Amazon A. So for example, if you have a lamp in your living room and you call it the living room floor lamp, you can simply say, A, turn on living room floor lamp, and then that bulb will turn on automatically and turn off. The pros to using light bulbs is that they're very easy to do. Most individuals are comfortable switching out light bulbs. The cons of doing smart light bulbs, though, is you still have to remember, in order for you to control that light bulb, power needs to remain constant to that light. So if you, for example, have a overhead light in your bedroom, and you unscrew the bulb and screw in this new bulb, but then you go, or someone else in your house turns off the light switch, saying A, turn on the light won't do anything because that light bulb has no power going to it because the light switch has turned the power off. So those light bulbs are easy and convenient, but you have to remember that power needs to be going to that light, that lamp or to that light fixture at all times in order for you to be able to turn it on or off.
Cory, what's your experience with the lifespan of these smart bulbs?
Well, they are LED bulbs, so you're going to get typical lifespan that you would get from most LED bulbs.
Excellent. We do also have a question here in the Q&A. This one is going back to the heating. It's from Gary, who asks Gary says that we have 3 furnaces in our home and asks whether the system that we were talking about before for heating and cooling would become complicated. Now, I assume if it's just the one thermostat, I mean, it's going to work in exactly the same way. It doesn't matter how many furnaces are there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it depends. If you've got 3 furnaces, it depends if you've got a single zone system where one thermostat's controlling all 3 furnaces. Typically, when you have multiple furnaces, you have multiple thermostats. And in that case, then you would need to purchase a smart thermostat for each. But you can globally, these thermostats understand that some people have multi-zone areas, and so you can kind of group them together and still use the single app too.
Excellent. There's some more questions coming in here as well, Cory. D asks what the general price of a smart bulb is.
Great question. So a smart light bulb can go anywhere from $10 up to $60. Some of it will depend on the brand. Some of it will also be, are they light? So for example, the less expensive ones are typically just a white light bulb. Now, a lot of times you can control the color temperature, the Kelvin, so it can either be a soft white, which is like that little more yellowy orangey white, or you can bring them up to like a more blue or cool light. Then if you want other bulbs that can do 16 million different colors, then that's where you're going to start to see bulbs, $40, $50 a piece. One of the more popular brands that most people are probably aware of is the Philips Hue brand. They've been around for a long time. They're very reliable. They're good bulbs, but man, they are expensive. Unfortunately, that's their big downfall, is they're quite expensive. I do have a number of Philip Hue bulbs in my home, but I've been trying to move away from those just because there are better priced options out there. But again, I would look at spending anywhere between $10, $15 up to $40, $60 a bulb.
Yeah, and if they're LED, they should last for a good length of time for sure.
And you want
So
to
it's
check
probably
the
a good
brightness
investment.
of those as well too. So not every smart bulb is going to be the same lumens. We want, when you see lumens, you want the higher lumen, the brighter it's going to be. But most of these bulbs, if not all of those bulbs, can also be controlled. The brightness can be controlled. So with the Amazon A, you can say set living room lights to 50%. Set living room lights to 100%, so you can control how bright. Now, obviously, it can only go so bright, but you can dim it down as well too.
Yeah, so I think that answers a question here from Joe Lisa about how if you can kind of change the brightness. Yes, you can, but you would want to make sure that you buy a bulb, with the correct amount of lumens that you want. So, different ones will have different maximums. And in terms of the electricity bill, yes, I mean, the brighter that you have the light, the more it will cost. But those LED lights use very little power anyway, so I don't think it's really going to be too significant. Yes, and here from Abby, we have a comment. I normally use the daylight blue bulbs in the living room, connected to the dimmer. I put one of my A-word bulbs in, and says when the slider is being used, increasing or decreasing the amount of light, the smart bulbs does a light show of colors until it gets done being switched. It's a little glitch, but a great way to teach kids colors. And also says, Amazon sometimes throws in a free smart bulb when it sells its own product, especially with the A-word products.
A lot of times you can pick up an Echo with a smart bulb. Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, so we talked about bulbs. Now, the other way we can do lighting is rather than switching out the bulbs, which can get very expensive. Let's say, for example, you have, in your living room, you have a light fixture that has 5 bulbs in it. That could be anywhere from $50 to $200 to switch out all of those bulbs to smart bulbs, and then you still run the risk of people turning off the light switch on you, which you'll see when we do a visit of my home. I put on some child guards so that there's a couple lights that I use bulbs, so I put on child guards on the light switches so nobody turns them off. But if you don't want to use light switches, then your next option is a device like I have right here. Now what this is, and hopefully you can see it on the camera.
Bring it to your left a little bit, Cory.
Yep.
And down a little bit. There you go, perfect.
What this here is a smart light switch. So what this would replace the light switch that you currently have in your house. And you can see on here, we kind of have 4 buttons. We have at the top is power on, at the very bottom is power off, and then the 2 buttons in the middle are your dimmer. So this is a dimmer switch, so I can increase and decrease how bright those bulbs are. And so this would then replace the light switch in your home, allowing you then to control all of the bulbs or all of the lights that light switch controls. Now I want to flip it to the back here just to show you that switching out light switches is actually quite easy to do. Now, I highly recommend getting an electrician or getting a handy person. Again, you don't even need an electrician as long as you feel confident that the person you're working with is confident switching out light switches. But I've switched out probably at least 15 at this point. And there's really only 3 wires on the back. There's a red and a black wire and then a ground wire. And it's as simple as just turning off the power in the house. So you go downstairs to the breaker box, make sure the power is off to that room. I also recommend getting a power tester. I have a little device that you put on the wire and it beeps if there's power. So I triple check that. I'm more than sure I must do it 50 times as I'm working because I just keep getting nervous that the power is going to come on. And then it's simple as just removing the old light switch and then twisting the wires together that are coming out of the wall.
So
now,
basically what you're saying, Cory, is if anybody needs their light switches swapping out, then you are the man.
If you're in the Milwaukee area, give me a call. Yeah. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into the different types of light switches because the 2 things I want to point out. First, there are light switches that require Wi-Fi, and then there are light switches that work needing a hub. So for example, I have a Lutron, Quesada is the brand that I use. And this has a hub that I have plugged into my house, and it's connected to my Wi-Fi. And then all of these switches throughout my house connect to that hub wirelessly. And the upside to that is two. One, they're more reliable, and number two, if my internet goes down, my light switches still work throughout the house. Now, if you get a light switch that is Wi-Fi enabled, they will still work, by pushing them on and off. They just won't work using your voice-powered assistant if you don't have the internet, which isn't a big deal. But the one thing you'll need to know, though, is typically you will see, if you start to look at smart switches, you will see some that say neutral wire required, no neutral wire required. Typically, houses built 1985 or newer typically have neutral wires run to every outlet. It's typically a white wire that's in the light switch box. And so if that's something you want to have someone check for you before you start buying light switches, or you can specifically buy the ones that say no neutral required, then you don't have to worry about it. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention about you might see neutral and no neutral required.
And even if your house is after 1985, I assume you could still put in a switch that doesn't require a neutral wire.
Yeah, like this one I have here, I chose it because it does not require a neutral. So rather than having to mess around, I just chose this because it's a good brand. It was reliable and it did not require a neutral wire, so I just didn't even want to bother. My previous house, I did install a few that did require a neutral wire. That house was built in the 70s and it did have a neutral wire, so it wasn't a big deal.
We have a couple of comments here from YouTube, where we are also streaming live. So JMO2112 says, my home's hardwired light fixtures are already LED and I can't change the bulbs. Is there a smart switch that can be installed? Now, I think that comment came in before we started talking about smart switches.
Yep. Good call. That's a perfect, a lot of lights, a lot of ceiling fans will have the built-in LEDs that are not replaceable. Yep.
Yes. And then Steve actually answered JMO's question saying, yes, Leviton makes great smart switches. And also says Cree makes a great RGB bulb around $15. So thank you for the tips there.
Yep. Yeah, Leviton's good, Lutron's good. TP-Link Casa has a lot of really good smart home switches and things as well, too.
Awesome.
So, all right, so that's a number of, now one other thing to talk about sort of with lighting, it's similar, is let's say you already have a lamp and you don't want to switch out the bulb because either you can't or you don't want to. And you don't really want to switch out the light switch either because maybe it's an apartment, although even with apartments it's very easy to switch in and out switches. But there's also a smart plug. Now this is just a normal plug that you would plug into any outlet. So you can see on the back here it has a normal 3-prong plug that you would plug into your outlet. And then on the front of the unit, this one has a single plug. And so you would plug your lamp, for example, into here, and now this device will control giving and taking away power from that lamp. So then we can connect it, this would connect to our Wi-Fi, and then we can use A or any other platform and say, A, turn on lamp, and then this device would turn the power on and off in order to control whatever was plugged into it. So it could be a lamp, it could be a air conditioner, it could be a coffee maker, basically anything you want to plug into these. And so this is another way then to control some of these powered devices. Could be lighting, might not be, but this is another way of doing it, and this is by using smart outlets or smart plugs. And there's a number of different brands. Amazon Alexa has its own. Amazon Basics have their own. This is a TP-Link Casa one. I mean, there's tons and tons out there. You can spend anywhere from $10, $15, again, up to $60 on the different plugs out there. Some will have a single, some will have multiple. I have a couple that I use outside that are waterproof, that are outdoor related. I use those to control my Christmas lights during the Christmas season. So those go on and off automatically for me. So that's another way, another smart device we can use.
So using those, you're basically turning dumb devices into smart devices by using a smart plug. Yeah, so that's cool. We have a few more comments here. Douglas asks, in terms of using the hub with the light switches, do those have to be the same brand?
Typically, well, that's a great question. Typically, yes. Typically, you're going to need the same brand. So, for example, my Lutron Caseta switches you would buy, you'll find when you look, you'll see there's a Lutron Caseta starter pack, which includes the hub and like one switch. Now, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but there are different technologies at home. Smart Home uses Zigbee, Z-Wave. These are a little bit more generic, so you can buy a generic Zigbee hub and then buy generic Zigbee switches and work. But typically, you're going to want, typically the hub will be specific to the brand you're buying.
All right, and we have some more comments in the YouTube here. Chris John says, in addition to smart bulbs, I also use a smart plug to control some lamps in the house. I think that was put in there just before we started talking about the smart plugs. And Steve Meador says, I have some wall sconces in my den that have a cord running down to a smart plug. I'm getting ready to have them hardwired and just use smart bulbs. So that's another thing you could do there as well. Get some rewiring done. And Jolita asks where we can buy some of these things, I think specifically with relation to the smart plugs.
Sure. I mean, you got Amazon, Best Buy, I think even Target and Walmart sell a lot of these things now. I get most of my stuff from Amazon just because, I'm lazy and I go through Amazon.
Just to give you a heads up, Cory, as well, I think we've lost your main video feed. So we can still see the webcam, but unfortunately we can't see your lovely face anymore. So let's give you a heads up on that.
That's fine. And yes, Douglas made a good point too. Just checking the wattage whenever you do any of this stuff. If you're buying smart bulbs, typically you're going to be fine wattage wise. Most lamps will be fine, especially for LEDs. But if you start to use the plugs, just make sure whatever you're plugging into it, that the wattage doesn't exceed what the plug can handle as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've got a couple more devices here I quickly want to show. Now, these are a little bit different. This starts to get into a little bit more of the smart home. So we talked about lighting, and a lot of that's really good. But now there's two other devices that I have throughout my home that allow me to control things. So, for example, this is a motion detector. It's just a round disc. And there's a little circle guy here. That's the motion detector. It's got a magnet on the back, so it can either magnetically stick onto something, or you can sticky it onto your wall. And with this, I can then use Amazon A to create automations or routines. Now, this is where the power of a smart home really comes into effect here, is when we talked about wanting a smart home to increase accessibility, but we also talked about the convenience, and that's where automations and routines become very powerful. How can we get devices to do things for us to make our lives more convenient? And that's where these next two devices come in. The motion detector, for example, I have a motion detector in my laundry room, and I have a routine or an automation set up so that when you walk into that room and the motion sensor detects you, the lights in my laundry room automatically come on. Because a lot of times you're walking into the laundry room with your hands full of a laundry basket or whatever it might be. And then I also have a routine set up that says when this motion detector does not detect motion for a specific amount of time. So for example, in my laundry room, I have it set up so that if the motion detector does not detect any motion for 10 minutes, then turn off the laundry room lights. So now when I leave the laundry room, I don't have to turn the lights off either. because I know after 10 minutes of no motion in that room, the motion detector will trigger and send a command to turn off the lights. I have one in my garage, so when you walk into the garage lights come on automatically. When it doesn't see any motion or detect motion for X amount of minutes, then the lights in the garage shut off. When you come down my main stairs from upstairs at night, the motion detector at the bottom of the stairs sees you, and then it turns my kitchen lights on so that when you walk into the kitchen in the middle of the night, you have some light. Now, some of the cool things you can do with these automations, including the motion detector, is not only can I say, hey, when it detects motion, turn my lights on, but I can add what are called arguments. So for example, I can say, hey, when you detect motion, only between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. turn the light on. Because during the day, you probably don't want your light to turn on every time motion is detected because you don't need light during the day if you have enough sunlight coming through. Or, for example, I have the one at the bottom of my stairs. It says only from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. if you detect motion, turn on the kitchen lights, but only turn them to 30% brightness so that you don't, blind yourself. Oh my gosh, it's so bright in the middle of the night when you've kind of been sleeping and you're coming down in the dark. So those are some of the arguments, some of that more powerful automation arguments you can add to say, okay, only do it at this time and then do it this brightness as well.
Cory, all of that sounds amazing, and like you say, it really is kind of unlocking the potential for this smart home technology. But I do have to ask, what does it take to set up that type of thing? I mean, are you going to have to use a smartphone, or can you do it using your voice?
You're going to need to use a smartphone. You're going to use for example, if you're using, you're going to use the smartphone app if it's the Amazon A app, the Google Home, or the Home app on iPhone if you're using HomeKit. And you would go in, so for example, for the Amazon A app, you would tap routines, and then you would tap add new, and then it's really simple following instruction. It'll say when this happens, and then it gives you a list of options when this happens, when a specific time, when I say a specific phrase, when this, you tell it when this happens. So for example, when this happens, when motion is detected, then do this. And you touch that, and then it gives you a list of these are the things you can do then. Turn this light on to this brightness, this time of day. So it's really easy to do. And I think what we may end up doing is releasing a future video, 10, 15-minute video on showing how to create Amazon Echo routines, because it really sounds more complicated than it really is.
So you don't need to be a computer programmer to do this stuff, but you do need to have some ability to access a smartphone.
You will. Now, for some of these things we talked about today, you do need that smartphone to get stuff set up. Now, once it's set up, you don't really need a smartphone. You could be doing a lot through your Amazon A. But yes, anytime we want to get into these a little bit more advanced automations or routines, then that smartphone is going to be important. Now, again, you could have sighted assistants or another person who's blind or visually impaired who feels more comfortable doing it. They could set it up for you. And then once it's set up, then there's not a lot you have to do.
Yes, Joe Lisa also asked about whether this type of sensor thing that we're talking about here would work in a closed closet. And yes, I mean, you can get it to work wherever you want.
Well, really. And that's the next one I want to show right now here is this now is this is called a contact sensor. And there's actually two pieces to this. I'll split them apart here so you can see. There's a bigger part and a smaller part. And basically all this is magnetic. And so what you do, for example, is you put one side on a door, the actual door itself, and one side on the frame right next to each other. So when the door is closed, they're connected to like this. And this closes the circuit. So this sensor right now would say the door is closed. When the door opens, they would split apart, making the door open. And so then you can set up routines based on the status of this contact sensor. So for example, I have down in our home theater I have a snack cabinet that has a bunch of movie theater candy in it. And I have some strip lights that I've put in there that are smart strip lights. And then I put one of these sensors on the door of that cabinet. And so when the cabinet is shut, the lights automatically turn off. When you open the cabinet and the contacts split apart, the lights inside the cabinet turn on so you can see in there. And then again, when you close it, the lights turn off. So for example, like you mentioned, the closet, I have another strip light in my closet, and then I have one of these contacts on my closet door. So when I open my closet door, the lights come on. When I close my closet door, the lights turn off. So you can do it, and it doesn't have to, one of the things with the Amazon A is it doesn't only have to turn lights on and off. With Amazon A and automations, you could set it up so every time you open up your door, let's say you set up your front door, every time you open it up, your Amazon A could say, "Hi, welcome back home, we missed you." So you could have it play custom messages. I have one on my pantry door because my kids always forget to close the pantry and then the dogs eat the food. So if the pantry is left open for more than 5 minutes, then a message plays on the Amazon Echoes throughout the entire house. Pantry door is left open, close it before the dogs eat the food. So it doesn't have to be just for turning lights on and off. You can do a number of other automations with these contact sensors.
And you can set multiple things to occur when a specific event happens. So when you open the front door, you could have like multiple things, lights turning on, messages being played, the oven coming on, coffee being brewed, whatever it might be. Yeah,
exactly. And think from a security standpoint, especially if you're an individual with a visual impairment, you could set it up so anytime your exterior doors are open, message plays on your Amazon Echo saying, front door has opened. So now, it gives you a little bit more safety, letting you know, when people are coming in and out of your house.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Douglas put in the comments here, and I found this interesting. You can also get some wall switches which are sound sensitive. And so you can set them to perform actions when they detect sounds rather than motion. So that's kind of
some of them have. So I can hear the chats coming in too via chat. They'll have occupancy sensors as well too. Some of them have temperature sensors, so you can start to control things by, if it becomes this temperature or this humidity in this room, do this action. You even can get some of I showed that outlet before, the smart outlet. You can get some smart outlets that allow you to keep an eye on the amount of power that's being drawn and then perform an action on that. So for example, let's say you have your dryer plugged into a smart outlet. You can set up an automation that says when this outlet stops drawing power, i.e. your dryer turns off, then alert me on the Amazon Echoes that my dryer is done. So you could start to do kind of crazy things like that as well.
I need one. I need a sound sensor that tells me when the cat starts meowing, automatically open some cat food and put it in his bowl.
That would be awesome.
That's what I need.
I also have a vibration sensor attached to my front door. So if someone doesn't ring my smart doorbell, which we didn't even talk about, but we'll demo in 2 weeks, if you knock on my front door, it triggers the vibration sensor, which then sends a message across all the Amazon Echoes in the house saying someone's knocking on your front door.
This is out of control. Does that not activate it when it's very windy?
No, because you put it on the inside and you got to, you got to hit the door pretty good.
I see. Avi in the chat here says just something to be wary of. So if you're going to set this up for somebody else using your smartphone, number one, if something needs to be changed or reset, then obviously, the individual who is using these smart devices would have to ask whoever set it up to do that. And also, if you set up your A-word Echo or Show, then you would then have whoever set it up, their phone book would be the one that's available on the Amazon device.
Unless you say no to importing contacts,
yes.
which
Okay,
is what we
fair
when we set up for clients who don't have a smartphone, we always make sure we put no for that, so you don't send over your contacts.
And Abby also has a suggestion for our demonstration, which is a good point here, because most of these devices are white. They're not particularly well contrasting against the white table.
Thank you. As somebody who has little to no vision, now that you mentioned I'm bringing them up close to my face, I see that they are white on a white table. Thank you for mentioning that. I'll make sure we get a black some construction paper or something next time. I appreciate that heads up.
All right, we only have a couple of minutes left here, Cory, but do you have anything else to talk about here today?
So, to recap about smart home technology, I know a lot of this sounds very overwhelming, but also very exciting, and that's, what to remember. Nobody is expecting you, and I sure wouldn't want you to go run out and buy all of this stuff. Start out with, if the question is, where should I start? Well, first, if you don't yet have a voice-powered assistant, an Amazon a Google Home, or a HomePod Mini, start there first. In my personal and professional opinion, I lean towards the Amazon Echoes, just from ease of use and the most compatibility, but all three are good options. Start there first. Get used to using your voice. If you've already got those in place, then the next thing is I recommend picking up either a smart bulb or a smart outlet, one of the smart plugs, because those are very easy for you to put in yourself. And get used to using your voice to turning things on and off. Turn on your lights, turn off my lights, and so forth. That's a good, cheap way to start. That's where I started. Once you start to get comfortable with that and start to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to expand, I want to do a little bit more, then start to look at doing some of the light switches or the contact sensors or the motion sensors. Those can all come down the line. I mean, I've been doing this now for probably close to 2 years, kind of growing my smart home, learning about it, watching YouTube videos, finding out what apps are accessible and what aren't. So again, this isn't going to, you're not going to have this tomorrow. It's not going to be next day kind of stuff. Also, if you're interested in smart home stuff, but just say, you know what, I know I have no interest in learning how to do it, I don't feel comfortable, reach out to someone like, maybe the Geek Squad at Best Buy. They'll come out and do some installation of smart home technology. Reach out to a family or friend who might be good with technology and see if they can help install and put stuff in for you. You'll find that once you start to have some of this stuff, that it is quite fun to do. It does make things more accessible. The last thing that I've learned too is don't do too much. I'm constantly changing a little bit of how the smart home works, because when I first started it, I wanted it to do everything. And now as I've been living with it and my family's been living with it, I start to scale things back and realize, okay, it doesn't need to do all of this. Or for example, when I opened up the garage door, I had it set up to turn the kitchen lights on so you would never come home to the dark. Well, that's great, except it would do that then all the time. So if you turn the lights off and then you took the dogs out, then the lights went back on. And so I realized that all these automations I created, as fun as it was, I started to realize that, okay, some of these are just not needed and they become more trouble than they're worth.
Right.
So in 2 weeks then, when we come on location to my house, I'm going to give some real world examples of how I'm using this technology. So I wanted to do this session first so that when we go to the house and I say, hey, okay, I've set up a routine. So when I'm in the home theater, if I say watch a movie, these 5 things happen. You have a better understanding of what devices are being used so that we can focus a little bit more on real world examples rather than trying to explain, okay, this is a contact sensor. And so that's why we've decided to split this into 2 sessions.
Yeah, so do make sure to join us in 2 weeks. It's going to be our first on-site Tech Talk Live, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And if you did enjoy hearing about the smart home technology in today's session, then I think you're definitely going to enjoy the show in 2 weeks, where we get to see some of this stuff in action. And personally, I'm just very looking forward to seeing Cory's new basement theater setup. So hopefully I'll get to watch a movie and eat some popcorn while I'm there. We shall see. But
we'll see what our boss thinks about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, both people on Zoom and the people who are joining us on YouTube. We really appreciate you joining us for our session today. And of course, we do have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/infocustechnology. That's where you're going to find a bunch of videos, including this episode, Joe Lisa. Yes, this one that is been live streamed to YouTube and will be available there in the future. And also a number of produced videos as well, covering different topics. As Cory said, we will try and get one up on some of the apps that you can use for setting up your smart home. So make sure to check that out, youtube.com/infocustechnology. Thank you all again for joining, and we shall see you in 2 weeks' time, same place, same time. Look forward to it. And
well, different place, but...
Well, different physical location, but same place for you guys.
Give me a hard time.
Place, same YouTube place.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another Tech Talk Live. If you enjoyed Cory and Luke's antics, join us again in 2 weeks. To register, visit vision-forward.org/Tech Talk Live.